Welcome to the deep dive. So generative AI, right? I mean, everything from ChatGPT to Sora, it all feels like this uh, unstoppable rocket launch. But when you see valuations climb this fast, you have to stop and ask, are we just watching an AI bubble inflate in real time?
That's exactly the mission for today. We're going to get into the source material on this. And there's a really strong case to be made that this whole space is dramatically overvalued. We could be looking at something like a dot-com level bust.
And this isn't just fringe analysis we're talking about, is it?
Not at all. I mean, 54% of global fund managers think we're in one. Even Sam Altman himself has sort of admitted that the valuations feel, well, a little rich.
Okay, so let's unpack that. I think we have to start with the money. The
Yeah.
financial mismatch here is it's staggering.
It really is.
I mean, take OpenAI. It was recently valued at, what, half a trillion
There's
dollars?
100 billion, yeah, and their revenue target is 10 billion for the year.
But the sources are projecting they could lose $8.5 billion in 2025. That is a massive cash burn for that kind of valuation.
And that speaks to the froth across the entire market. Investors are just pouring money in, without profits. We're seeing metrics like the CPE ratio getting close to where they were right at the peak in 2000.
And there's this other detail in the sources about circular financial relationships.
Yes. Vendor financing, it's a huge red flag.
Explain that for us.
So think of NVIDIA. They're selling all the picks and shovels for this gold rush, right? But they're also making these enormous investments in AI companies
Who then turn around and
and use that same money to buy NVIDIA's chip.
so you're basically funding your own customers' purchases.
Exactly. It creates this kind of manufactured demand, and it's eerily similar to what we saw with companies like Nortel just before the dot-com crash.
Okay, so if the financing looks that shaky, are we destined for a complete crash?
Well, not necessarily, and this is where it gets a little more nuanced. While valuations are high, they aren't quite at 2000 levels across the board. The S&P 500's PE ratio is around 30, not the 46 it hit back then.
Yeah, the foundation is stronger, you're saying.
Much stronger. I mean, the backers here are big tech. You've got Amazon, Microsoft. They have these huge cash flows, 3 times 2000 levels, and very little debt. So if a startup fails, the whole system is less likely to collapse.
But hang on. If big tech is the safety net, doesn't that just mean they gain more control when the smaller guys fail? Is that really a healthy long-term outcome?
That is a critical question, and consolidation seems almost inevitable. But we have to shift from spreadsheets to the physical world for a minute, because the sheer scale of this build-out introduces a whole new risk.
You're talking about the power demand. This number for me was the real aha moment. OpenAI alone is planning for an additional 26 gigawatts in data center capacity.
And to give you some context for that, 1 gigawatt is roughly the output of a large nuclear power plant.
So 26 nuclear power plants.
26 of them, just to run their projected services.
Wow. I think most people hear AI bubble and think finance, not massive energy deficits. Grid infrastructure takes, what, 5 to 10 years to build?
At least. Which brings us right back to the demand gap. Bain and Company estimates that for these companies to be profitable, they need $2 trillion in annual revenue by 2030.
2 trillion. That's more than Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, and NVIDIA's revenue combined.
Exactly. And when you compare that to the reality right now, where only about 6% of OpenAI's users are actually paying subscribers, that revenue gap looks like a cliff edge.
So what's the takeaway here?
The sources are all signaling one thing: consolidation. We just don't have enough real customer demand to support 500 AI unicorns. We're going to see a replay of history. The internet changed the world, but only a handful of companies actually made money in the long run.
All right, so here's a final thought to leave you with. The history of these big tech revolutions shows they're often bad investments on average because of this exact boom and bust cycle. Being the leader today, like Netscape was back then, is absolutely no guarantee of future leadership.
It seems like the fear of underinvesting, of being left behind, is what's driving this whole rally. But the biggest unknown is that timeline. How long until customer revenues actually have to start funding all this? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.